This video was brought to you by my beautiful Patreon community and my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much. Hello boys and girls, welcome back to another rebuttal of JW Broadcasting.
JW Broadcasting.
We actually haven't had one of these broadcasts in like 4 months, can you believe it? Watchtower only makes 8 original broadcasts each year, and the other 4 months are just reruns of the annual meeting and the Gilead graduations. Yeah, reheated spiritual food. Thank you, Jehovah. In this broadcast, we are going to learn the importance of humility from one of the most arrogant religious organizations on the earth. And we're going to learn that Jehovah's Witnesses are actually very tolerant towards gay people. Yeah, it's about to get culty. You know, as always, we're doing the cringe challenge, so if you cringe, you lose, and when you cringe, let me know the exact moment you lost it. Are you ready? Let's get into it. The main talk this month is presented by Gary Bro, and for the life of me, I cannot take this man seriously anymore after his appearance in Pillowgate, in which he talks for like an hour about masturbation and penises and fondling.
What if a person fondles the genitals of another, but doesn't actually masturbate them?
Go watch it if you haven't already. So expect a lot of Pillowgate references in this episode. Okay, Gare Bear, please tell us more about the importance of humility.
Have you ever considered who is the greatest example of humility?
The governing body.
If your answer is Jehovah, you're correct.
Jehovah is the biggest example of humility? Yeah, I don't know about you, but I think demanding worship from others is the complete opposite of humility. Jehovah literally created an assortment of angels surrounding his throne whose sole purpose is to praise him for all eternity. And if that wasn't bad enough, the Jehovah's Witness conception of God is even worse than just regular Christianity, because in regular Christianity, God himself comes down to the earth as a human to redeem mankind. But the JW version of God never does that. He just hangs around in heaven while his son is brutally crucified. I mean, hung from a stake. Such humility, Jehovah.
Jehovah knows that the quality of humility will help us in our imperfect condition. For example, it will help us to imitate him, to faithfully serve him, and to survive the end of the system of things. Yes, Jehovah knows that humility will enrich our lives today and eternally.
This religion has an interesting take on the word humility. Now, by humility, you probably imagine someone who is modest, who doesn't think too much of himself, who is peaceable and aware of his limitations. But most of the time that Watchtower uses the word humility, they relate it to obedience. If you are humble, you are obedient to Jehovah and his organization, and you accept any doctrinal changes they might make without question. Humility is synonymous with compliance. In the eyes of Watchtower, you cannot be humble and reject the stuff they teach, because this would equal to rejecting the direction of Jehovah himself.
Jesus has already reaffirmed these timeless standards in heaven. Soon he'll do the same for the earth, with a commission to save only those who are humble and obedient. Our developing and displaying humility, then, is essential to our survival.
There you have it. Couldn't be more clear than that. Equating humility with obedience. Obedience to whom? Jehovah, of course. Through the only channel that he is using, the governing body.
True humility enables us to see ourselves as we really are and to honestly admit all of our weaknesses and failures.
Yeah, something that the governing body is unable to do. Remember, they have no need to apologize for past doctrinal mistakes.
Well, knowing this, then, we are not embarrassed about adjustments that are made, nor is an apology needed for not getting it exactly right previously.
In contrast, pride and arrogance are directly related to deception. An arrogant person covers up his weaknesses and failures. And that can only last so long because eventually pride leads to a crash, as Proverbs 16 verse 18 warns us.
It's almost poetic, isn't it? Arrogance hides the truth and pride leads to a crash. And I actually agree, Gare Bear. That's what we're seeing with the organization today. All their human rights abuses are coming to the spotlight, and their prideful refusal to change their policies is coming back to bite them on the ass. If pride comes before the crash, then the fall of this religion is gonna be a Hiroshima level disaster.
One translation renders humility at Philippians 2 verse 3 to be self-effacing. This means to make ourselves inconspicuous, working in the background and avoiding the limelight.
Oh, this one actually does describe the governing body, before they plastered their face in front of Chinese TV sets for the whole world to see. The cojones on these dudes.
Are you a homosexual?
Happiness in marriage requires humility, especially when husbands and wives don't see eye to eye. When a disagreement leads to hurt feelings, do we find it hard to apologize? Notice what can help in this episode of For a Happy Marriage.
Now Watchtower is going to give us a bit of advice on marriage. This coming from a religion that used to prohibit oral sex and that prohibits divorce on all grounds except infidelity. Now I'm curious guys, since I've never been married, but if you were married in the JW religion, how useful was Watchtower's advice in your everyday life? Did it help you resolve issues in your marriage? Or did the advice backfire from time to time? Let me know in the comments below.
A strong marriage can be an oasis of peace in a difficult world. But no matter how strong the bond, every marriage consists of an imperfect man and an imperfect woman living in a confined space.
In a confined space, then they show a pretty decent sized apartment.
Take responsibility for your part in the dispute, even if you don't think you've done anything wrong. Acknowledge the hurt you've caused your spouse, and be quick to accept each other's sincere apologies. The quicker you apologize, no matter who is to blame, the faster you restore the peace and happiness in your family.
Wait, why would he need to apologize if he didn't do anything wrong? That doesn't make any sense.
When you sincerely apologize and accept your mate's apology, you put your marriage ahead of yourself and continue to strengthen your bond of love.
It's funny they dedicate like 5 minutes to the importance of apologizing to your spouse, but they never suggest actually owning up to your actions and changing your ways so you stop irritating your spouse and thus stop needing to apologize so often. You would think that's important, right? Like, apologizing all of the time is not gonna sustain a crumbling marriage. Apologies mean nothing when you're not willing to right your wrongs. So help your wives with the bags, damn it.
He ends up becoming aroused, and after they finish their conversation, he masturbates. Others view those who are different with hatred. The Bible reveals, from Jehovah's perspective, how we should treat others. In our next segment, see how learning about this strengthened the faith of two young ones.
Now we get to the next section, reasons for faith, in which they try to convince young people that this religion is not actually homophobic.
In what ways have you seen people treat others who are different from them?
When I was at school, a common viewpoint of my schoolmates was that you should be accepting of whatever lifestyle someone chooses to lead. Teachers would encourage us to support those with different sexual orientations.
Sure, seems reasonable to me.
Acceptance and tolerance to a fault.
On social media, it was very common to see extreme viewpoints about different lifestyles. I often saw comments attacking others for their lifestyles.
You mean for their sexual orientation?
I remember that some classmates would say to me, "Don't Jehovah's Witnesses hate gay people?" It seemed like many students assumed that we must have an extreme viewpoint and that we would completely reject those who don't conform to our beliefs.
Really?
You have got to be kidding me. Jehovah's Witnesses don't hate gay people. Oh no, you're very wrong, because the hate comes directly from the top. Remember that time governing body member Kenneth Cook referred to gay marriage as Satan's attempt to ruin mankind, calling it an abhorrent lifestyle? Yeah, I'm not kidding. Run the clips.
Along with false religion, human society in general is gradually corrupting everything that Jehovah has set in place for mankind. We see it in their so-called gay marriage. We see it in the gender blurring that the world is promoting. You don't have to be a man or a woman, they say. You can be whatever you feel like or choose to be. Really? But Satan's world now says that marriage can be between two men or two women.
Again, really?
We can be certain that promoting this corrupt view is part of Satan's attempt to ruin mankind, to make them so abhorrent to Jehovah that he would abandon humans and his purpose for mankind in the earth.
Or how about that time Gary Bro, our host for this month's broadcast, called homosexuality unholy and repugnant?
To keep clean before Jehovah, you have to fight against homosexual behavior. Examine your conduct carefully and honestly so that you avoid situations that can foster homosexual desires.
Why are you gay?
Homosexuality is unholy and repugnant to Jehovah, and he will not tolerate it among his dedicated servants.
Or that JW soap opera where Olivia denies that there are gay members in the Jehovah's Witness community, even though every JW knows that is simply not true.
I've spoken with your people before. They seem big on equality.
We are. The Bible says God isn't partial, so we believe that everyone should be treated fairly.
So I assume you have gay members in your church?
No, we don't.
Bruh.
Oh, and how about that homophobic Caleb and Sophia cartoon? I mean, the list goes on and on. This religion has a long history of hate against the LGBT community, both by the direct condemnation of
alternate lifestyles
or by making the gay characters in their movies as insufferable as possible.
What helped you get the Bible's viewpoint?
My parents always helped me to have a balanced viewpoint. As I was growing up, they helped me understand that even though we completely reject certain conduct, we don't hate the person who practices it.
Condemning someone's sexual orientation is the same as rejecting the person themselves, because it's part of their identity. It's like if you told me, "Hey Panda, I like you as a person, I just don't approve of your Mexicanness." Would that make any sense to you? No, because that is part of who I am. I cannot change it. I think it's something very similar with sexual orientation. I really can't stand this love the sinner, hate the sin rhetoric that this religion pushes, because it treats being gay as something people choose, when in reality, you have very little control over your sexual orientation.
I learned a lot from my mom's example. She used to work at a beauty salon, and I saw how she was always kind to others she worked with, regardless of their sexual orientation.
Yeah, that's like the bare minimum. The mom is required to treat gay people kindly, because if not, she would be fired. And she probably talks crap about them behind their back as she's going door to door spreading the message of the love of Jehovah. I know I did when I was a witness, which was super hypocritical.
When I think about the way that Jehovah treats people and how he gives everyone a chance to learn about him, I'm drawn to him even more.
Living by Bible standards doesn't mean that we agree with every belief or opinion that others have. It does mean treating everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of the choices they make. Homosexuality is unholy and repugnant to Jehovah.
Well, if Jehovah is actually speaking through the faithful and discreet slave, then he really doesn't like gay people. Like, really. Referring to their sexuality as abhorrent and comparing homosexuality to smoking and stealing stuff. Now, to be fair, I do appreciate that Watchtower is trying to encourage their young people to be kind towards everyone, to be tolerant, which is like the bare minimum, but I'll take it. But the sad thing is that this tolerance is nothing but a facade. As of February 2025, this religion is still blatantly homophobic. Sure, you're not gonna see Jehovah's Witnesses attacking gay people in the streets or anything, but if you're a gay JW, you're not allowed to express your sexuality like at all. If you're a gay man in this religion, you just have to like hide that part of yourself and force yourself to like women. You just have to force yourself to be straight. It's like torture. This religion wants to paint a picture of themselves being tolerant and loving towards everyone, but then we have a bunch of clips of their leaders spewing hateful rhetoric. You call it hateful, intolerant, whatever you want to call it. It's not good. So yeah, you're not fooling anyone, Watchtower.
Jehovah wants all people to masturbate in.
Now we get an episode of Our History in Motion, in which Watchtower tells the story of public witnessing, which is when 2 or 3 JWs stand in front of a literature cart and wait for people to approach them. And Watchtower claims that Jesus himself set the precedent for this preaching method.
Jesus set the precedent for public witnessing. He taught in the main streets and along the road. The Apostle Paul and other first-century Christians followed that courageous pattern. Jehovah's modern-day people follow a similar example.
Yeah, standing behind the literature cart is like the complete opposite of what Jesus and Paul did. Can you imagine Paul in the crowded streets of Athens just standing there with some pamphlets? Silly to even think about.
In the late 1800s, the Bible students, as we were called back then, published a booklet called The Bible versus Evolution. The goal? To distribute over 300,000 copies. But there was only a small group of Bible students at the time. How could they distribute that much literature? The April 15th, 1899 issue of the Watchtower sent out a call. Volunteers wanted. The plan? To stand at street corners outside of churches distributing the tract to anyone interested. Clergy members were not happy with this. They even tried to have the publishers arrested for distributing free tracts.
If evangelicals tried to pull off the same stunt in front of a kingdom hall, I'm 100% sure the elders would call the police on them. Of course the priests were gonna be pissed. They saw JWs as heretics trying to lead their flocks astray.
Nonetheless, the Bible students courageously did not give up. In just 1 year, over 900,000 tracts were distributed at street corners all across North America and Europe. Our public witnessing work was just getting started. In the 1920s, we launched a massive preaching campaign around the publication and public talk series, Millions Now Living Will Never Die.
I don't know why Watchtower is so proud of Rutherford's preaching campaign. I mean, the title alone is a false prophecy. Millions now living will never die. Back then, JWs truly believed that their generation would not pass away without seeing Armageddon. Well, 100 years have passed since then, and everyone that took part in this preaching campaign is now dead. If the governing body had 2 collective brain cells between them, they would try to hide this shameful part of their history, but nope. They just have to remind us that this was a false religion from the very beginning.
We thought outside the box and tried numerous methods to draw the public's attention. And it worked. Over the next several years, we developed even more methods of reaching people.
And will enable you to learn the way of righteousness.
Brothers and sisters even wore their public witnessing in the form of placards, known as sandwich boards.
Most of these people are dead now.
And magazine bags. There were information marches. Imagine being part of one.
They were pretty smart to drop this type of preaching technique because it looks ridiculous. My favorite placard is this one. Religion is a snare and a racket. Probably the most ironic Watchtower moment in history.
A major milestone occurred at the dawn of the 21st century when the governing body approved our brothers in France to begin testing different methods of public witnessing.
Of course, this nonsense had to start in France.
Including the use of literature carts, which look much different from what we use today. After years of success, the governing body continued to make refinements to public witnessing, including the development of special metropolitan public witnessing. These changes put us in contact with people we wouldn't have found when working from house to house.
You know, in my entire run as a JW, I probably met one person that came into the truth via literature cards. Did you meet anyone who was converted this way? Let me know in the comments, because I'm sure it's not that common. Most people that approached the cart were either Christians that felt like debating, or some lonely people who simply wanted to chat, but weren't actually interested in the religion. The carts are just an easier way to count your ministry hours, much easier than knocking on doors at least.
That brings us to today, where public witnessing is a key part of our ministry. Literature carts are so familiar that we've even written a song about them.
Oh no, not the cart song. Now that's a certified cult classic. They basically treat the literature cart as like a conscious being, and he's singing about being used in service and all the people he meets, and it's super cheesy.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
I'm just a cart made up of bits and pieces, a frame, a handle, and some wheels. I've got wheels, I've got racks, I've got books, and I've got tracks. I take the kingdom message everywhere.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
But whether you're one of thousands in an information march or just one publisher on a street corner, the goal is the same: to demonstrate our love for Jehovah and to reach people's hearts.
I mean, I don't know which one's worse, the cart song or the false prophecy campaign from the 1920s. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
Can you picture yourself among the 1,000 witnesses in that 6-mile-long information march? It takes courage and humility to step out into the public eye and proclaim the good news. Through public witnessing, we've scattered countless seeds of truth.
Yep. Promising people that they will see Armageddon in their lifetime, only to watch them grow old and die. Some seeds of truth right there.
Through masturbating another person, we've scattered countless seeds.
Now we get a morning worship talk by everyone's favorite wombat, Jeffrey Jackson, before he became a Walter White ripoff. And his talk is about humility. This coming from the dude that used deception when he testified in the Australian royal courts. I just can't stand Jeffrey anymore. He pisses me off, so let's just skip right over him.
Avoid being presumptuous.
Humbly placing ourselves in Jehovah's loving hands is the theme of the new music video, which tells the story of a person who learns the truth while imprisoned.
And now we get to everyone's favorite part of the broadcast, the music video. And of course it's in Brazil, baby. Caralho.
Jehovah, my God, your eyes can see an imperfect heart inside of me. Still I try to serve you loyally. When my words get away without restraint, or things that I do don't bring you praise, I beg you, please keep working with me. I look to you, my Father, I am the clay, you are my potter.
This has to be one of the most predatory forms of preaching. These prisoners are like in their lowest point. They're vulnerable, they're very easy to indoctrinate. And other churches pull this off too. It's horrible.
Shaping me into something new, something that brings praise to you, someone who brings a smile to your face. I am the clay, you are my potter.
There's not much else to comment on this video. Brazilian mom regains her freedom and goes to the Kingdom Hall, and she loves her son and lives happily ever after. And of course she's gonna get to see Armageddon in her lifetime, because the end is just around the corner. And the broadcast ends with a video postcard from Myanmar, which is a country, I think it's still in civil war, right? It's not doing very well. Aside from the broadcast, we also had a new governing body update. with one of the newest members of the governing body, Jody Delulu. What's funny about Jody is that he's a very successful real estate agent, which is ironic because this religion always speaks against higher education and being rich. And the update covers some disaster relief in Cuba and Africa, and there's this creepy segment where they teach children how to better convert their classmates, turning little enemies of God into effective preachers of the word. I love it.
Perhaps we can make it a family project. After all, our children need to learn these truths too. That way they can learn to defend their faith. Would you like to see how a family might do this?
Now, girls, how can we use these scriptures to teach this truth? God has a name. Alba, what are you thinking?
I could ask the person, have you ever heard that God has a name?
That's perfect. And then what could you do?
I could show them Psalm 83:18.
Great job. You girls are doing so well at learning the truths that we love to teach and the scriptures that go with them.
Poor girls should be out playing in the park and not having to worry about the salvation of their classmates.
Dear brothers and sisters, we love you all very much.
Thank you, Jody. I'm sure we're going to be seeing more of you in the future.
From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW.
Gary, can you stop hosting broadcasts, please, and get to work on Pillowgate 2.0? I think everyone would appreciate that much, much more.
Jehovah delights to come
pregnant.
This broadcast had it all. Failed prophecies, music videos, and calls to humility from some of the most arrogant men on the planet. Praise Jehovah. So guys, let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below, and let me know the exact moment you lost the cringe challenge because I love reading your comments. If you would like to support my work, please head on over to Patreon or become a YouTube channel member. It's only $1 a month, and you gain early access to all my videos. Guys, thank you so much. Take it easy, have a wonderful day, and stay away from the tower.
I've got wheels, I've got rats.
Goodbye.